Hey kids, it's Bullock and welcome to quest number 1. This is the beginning of your English 10 journey with me, and I couldn't be more excited about it. I mean, I look calm, but deep down, what do you call it? Happy. That's the word. Anyway, this year is all about culture. So quest number 1 has to be defining what culture means, what goes into making up a person's culture, how you might define cultural identity, how you might define your cultural identity specifically, what happens when people of different cultures clash, what happens when people in the same family have this different cultures, and there's all sorts of stuff related to culture that we're going to be covering in this year. And so this first unit has to lay a firm foundation. So that's what quest number 1 is all about. Figuring out what culture means. So you might be asking why. Why do I have to learn about culture? You're saying, and do you want a better answer than because I said so, or because that's what the whole year is about according to your springboard? Here's the thing, empathy, right? Maybe you're not sure what empathy is, but I like to think of empathy as one of the things that distinguishes human beings from, say, jellyfish, right? The jellyfish stings you. The jellyfish isn't going to come up to you later and say, "Oh, man, you got stung and that's a real bummer. Do you want to talk about it?" Right? The jellyfish doesn't do that, but your friend at the beach with you will, because your friend is going to have empathy. That's what level 1 is about in this quest, is empathy. Level 1A is connecting the idea of empathy to the psychological idea of theory of mind. All right, level 2 then is where you come up with a definition of culture. It's sort of your own initial definition. You refine that definition after learning about some things like the difference between a subculture and a counterculture. It's all kinds of interesting stuff. And then level 2A asks the question, are we ever allowed to criticize somebody's culture, or do we just have to accept everybody's culture the way it is? Then level 3 is really where you start defining your own culture and your own cultural identity. And level 4 asks you to sort of stand outside of yourself and think about the way other people see you. Do they have an incorrect perception of you from outside, or does everybody look at you and immediately get exactly who you are? That all leads quite nicely into level 5, which is the embedded assessment, where you are writing a reflective essay about your own cultural identity. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. Along the way in this quest, you will be doing some vocabulary exercises for pretty much every level. That's both academic vocabulary, where you are learning words that are important concepts related to what you're learning, but also things related to writing or reading or grammar, stuff like that. There's also vocabulary from the literature. So the things that you are reading, I've identified some words that you maybe don't know or don't know well, and you are always welcome. If you're reading the literature and you come across words that you don't know or don't know well that aren't on my list, you're welcome to go ahead and do the vocabulary exercise for those. If you don't know how to do the vocabulary exercise or what to do, you got a couple of options. One, you can ask me the next time you see me in person, or you can go to the About section of the Google Classroom. There is a video there explaining how to do the vocabulary. In addition to vocabulary, we'll be doing some specific writing exercises. We'll be learning, for example, parallel structure, so that you can sound more sophisticated in the things that you write. That's generally going to be the way things go, is that as you are learning some concepts and reflecting on them and writing about them, you're going to be embedding some new writing techniques in your writing and the way that you're writing. So you're learning how to write better while you are learning about these new things. And then finally, level 5. Level 5 is the Springboard Embedded Assessment. If you want to go ahead and look at your Springboard book right now, you can, but I'm going to put the question up on the screen Your assignment is to write a reflective essay explaining your cultural identity. And if you're looking at the screen, if you're looking along on page 57 of your Springboard book, or even if you're looking at the Google Doc, where all of this is laid out for you in Quest 1 Level 5, you can see there's a bunch of other questions underneath that. But all of those questions, those planning questions, are things that have really come up in levels 1 through 4 of this quest. One of the things that I want you to learn and I want you to understand is that every activity you do between the beginning of a quest and the embedded assessment, all of those activities are leading you toward the embedded assessment. You are welcome to do what I like to call CPR, right? Copy, paste, and revise. So if you've got a paragraph or a sentence or an idea from earlier in the quest that you want to put into your embedded assessment essay, do that. That's exactly why I have you go through those other activities. That's exactly why I ask you to think about the things I ask you to think about, is because it's going to spur the ideas that you need in order to be successful on your embedded assessment. Here are some specific things that I'm looking for when you do that embedded assessment. Words, phrases, lines, sentences from one or two previous texts in the quest. I don't pick these things that I ask you to read at random. Like, I don't walk over to the internet, reach in, and pull out a poem. They're things that can help give you ideas about what to write about. There's somebody along the way before the embedded assessment who said something that you agree with, or that reminds you of something, or that you disagree with, or that is the opposite of the way you think and believe and feel and act. Compare yourself, contrast yourself, make connections with the texts that we read before the embedded assessment. You're going to embed some of those academic vocabulary terms in your writing. And this is super easy, guys, because like one of the academic vocabulary terms is the word culture, right? So if you use the phrase cultural identity or my cultural identity, ding, you have got one of the academic vocabulary words in there. Should not be too hard to do. You are going to have to use a multi-paragraph structure. I have outlines available for you if you're not confident setting out on your own with this multi-paragraph stuff. You're going to do things like include a complex sentence, a compound sentence, parallel structure, a positive phrases. You're going to put transition words in between the ideas in a paragraph and between paragraphs. And if you don't know what any of those things are, they're covered in the quest. And if you do know what a lot of those things are, then you are golden. You're going to be able to fly through the levels of the quest. But I do want to take a moment and talk about the rubric for this embedded assessment. When you turn in level 5, what am I going to be looking for from your work? First of all, for reading literature and reading informational text, I'm going to be looking for some graphic organizers and questions that you've answered in the Springboard book. In the About section of the Google Classroom, there's a video on the vocabulary, but that also includes information about how to set up your binder. Because when you turn in level 5 of this quest, you're also going to bring to me your binder for the class. And I'm going to flip through it. I'm going to make sure that you've done the vocabulary. I'm going to make sure that you've done the graphic organizers along the way. I'm going to make sure that you've answered the questions in the Springboard book. Not because I hate you and I want you to do all kinds of work that is boring or dull, but rather the things that I'm asking you to do are important. So you'll notice, and I'll talk about this in some of the other videos introducing levels for this quest, I'm not asking you to answer questions 1 through 1100. I'm asking you to answer questions 4 and 7, because those are the ones that are really going to get you thinking about what's important here. So when I ask you to do something in the Springboard book, it's on purpose. When I ask you to do a graphic organizer, it's on purpose. And when I ask you to do the vocabulary, it's on purpose. The writing standard here, expository, informational, explanatory text. Your writing should clearly and thoroughly explain one or more aspects or parts of your cultural identity. Now, this one ought to be a gimme. Everybody ought to have advanced on this one, because there is nobody on the planet who knows your cultural identity better than you do. It just, like, if you can't get an advanced, just go for it, all right? Thoroughly, completely, absolutely explain to me what your cultural identity is. You will get advanced here. The second writing standard I've already kind of talked about, multi-paragraph structure. You're going to need some specific kinds of sentences like compound sentences or complex sentences. You're going to need transitions. And an additional writing standard on planning and editing. Basically, I'm looking here for you to make those connections to things that you have previously written and things that you have previously read. So, and again, you will have done 4 levels leading up to this one where there's all kinds of material that you can draw from. There's absolutely no reason why you can't be successful on this embedded assessment. And the exciting thing is that every step of the way, I'm going to be there to help you. Your classmates are going to be there to help you. There's going to be links to things on the internet that can help you. I want you to pass this class, right? As I'm making this video, I'm working in summer school in MPS. I don't want you to be one of those kids. It's not exciting. It's not fun. It's very hot, okay? I want you to pass this class. I want you to be successful on all your embedded assessments. And I've tried to line it up and make it as easy as possible for you to get the highest score possible. Finally, a piece of information, you've seen it a couple of times up on the screen, but all the levels, or all the required levels, 1 through 5, for this quest are due on Friday, September 14th. Now, if that seems like you don't have enough time to complete it, I will remind you that I can take work up to 3 weeks after the posted due date. But I really don't want to. As you complete a level, turn it in. We'll talk about it. We'll see if you need to make revisions. Complete the next level, turn it in. We'll talk, and so on. As long as you are working at a reasonable pace in class and maybe doing a little homework, Friday, September 14th will be no problem for you. Anyway, good luck.